Hello everyone. This is going to be just a quick video that I want to kind of like explain about like just certain things that was going on. I just seen on YouTube that I had to explain. So I'm going to kind of play a clip from YouTube. It's about this gentleman. They were talking about it on the I think it's the AJ Plus group. AJ Plus is Al Jazeera, and it's a video where they talk about a guy that was making $20 an hour, and he was still homeless. And his argument was that he was working and he wanted money for overtime and couldn't get overtime and wanted to quit, but it triggered him being homeless because the company he was working for covered his housing. And you can listen to the video and you probably can find out, how this way you can understand what the person was saying and I don't mess it up. So listen to it.
In Jackson?
And for most Jackson residents, that much moving isn't uncommon.
Yeah, rent gets raised, 1,000% with no notice, and you can't afford it. There's no regulations here in Jackson.
Like many workers in Jackson, Patrick's previous housing was tied to his employment. Companies have started providing housing for employees because they know rent is so expensive. But that quickly became a problem, because when Patrick wanted to quit, he became homeless too.
Getting overworked, and they wouldn't promote somebody else to take off some of the, work that they were putting on me. I was working 70 hours a week, not getting paid overtime. So I told them, I said, look, it's not working out. I'm getting overworked. And they said, well, you can't stay in the employee housing if you don't work the hours we tell you to work. And they basically made me homeless.
So he came here to the Good Samaritan mission.
About 40 some beds or say. There's 5 female dorms upstairs, and then the rest are men's dorms.
Currently, the Good Samaritan only has space for single men and women. Right now, unhoused families have no shelter in all of Teton County. The Good Samaritan is a working shelter, which means that everyone who stays here long term has to work full time. But that's not difficult. There's no shortage of jobs in Jackson Hole, and wages here start at $20 an hour. But in Jackson, the wealth inequality is so vast that $20 an hour is not a livable wage. So,
All right, and now we're back. All right, so this is some of the issues that I actually have about people who complain about homelessness. Everybody, in my opinion, is homeless. Everybody's always 2 steps from homeless, whether you're working part-time, full-time, whether you have a house or 2 houses. Everybody has to continue to provide value to the world that they're in, to society, in order to make sure that they can keep the housing that they actually have. So this gentleman that was talking about, he wanted to quit and he left with being homeless. He was working 70 hours. If I was actually that person, the first thing I would actually do would I would try to get the people he was working for to find more people to cover his shift. That's it. Meaning that I would try to find somebody. If I want to work 40 hours a week, I'm working 70 hours a week. I'll see if I can get somebody to work 20 or 30 hours a week with me. And then I would tell my manager that I would take on responsibility to train, manage, making sure that person does a good job, and I'm be responsible for that person for whatever they actually are doing right or wrong. And then I would also try to tell them that if I do that, this person will have an opportunity to live in the housing as well. If they don't let him live in the housing by themselves, then he can live in the housing with him. Now, there is an issue with that particular housing that they said that that it was only for single people, so single men and women were only allowed in that housing. So if he was getting a single man or a single woman, he would have to tell them the rules and regulations. But the idea about that is that you have the housing. It's coming from your job. You should respect and try to allow that. They might have wanted him to leave, and he didn't want to leave. We don't know the housing. We don't know the job side of the story. But what I'm trying to basically get is that we are actually we're a unit. And that company wants to make sure that they can continue to provide services for the customers that they actually have, while they can still give him his work. And the other thing about the issue was that it was actually in Florida. So it's not like he was living in New York where it's 45 degrees right now, you know? And that's the idea I think about the world of today. Is that like people are choose to live the way they're living. And some people have opportunities to live different ways than others. You know, some people can go ahead and sneak and live in, you know, like what do you call it again? Like they can live in housing like NYCHA, which is like the New York Housing Authority, New York City Housing Authority, and usually it goes by how much money you make. If you have somebody that's living there that's retired and they make a certain amount of money, and if they don't have anybody else on the lease living there with them, then their housing rent would be fixed based on how much money the people that's on there. And then you can use that to coop money, to get money, and not have to pay it back to the company, which is a smart idea. But the problem about it is that like if too many people get away with that, it will cause a disruption in our society, and that is some of the issues that I think personally that we should try to pay attention to when it comes down to solving issues in like homelessness, employment, unemployment, education. Is that we all have to work together, right? If you worked in your job for 40 years and it's time for you to retire, you should be planning for retirement. Become as a consultant, open up your own business. You could do the same thing and provide services back to the company. If you are, that's just for example, if you are a stay-at-home mom and you raised your 3 children, and your 3 children now are grown, and now you have to go back into the workforce. If you can't have any skills to go back to the workforce, you have to go back and reskill yourself. You can't complain that you don't want to go back to work, and now the society has to pay for you. You know, or if you think that, you lived with, you were married for 40, 50 years, and that if your spouse is going to pass away or retire or you're going to get a divorce, you can recoup the benefits from that. It's going to hurt society, because as a society, humanity, we always copying each other. And that's some of the problems that I actually feel that that's a big issue in our society. We don't really pay attention to the fact that everybody's actions account for everyone. And for me personally, I try to make sure that I don't put too much of my wants and needs, my wants and my desires onto the plate. I try to make sure I handle my things on my own, because that's the only way I think that I can prevent a lot of problems affecting other people. Now, there are sometimes that people try to take advantage of that personally with me, and they'll try to find ways to, listen to some of my secrets and taking them and doing it for themselves, and then not giving me back anything like monetary, financial, but that's on me. But personally, that's my idea about that. And that's just something about that whole video. If you want to listen to the whole video, I'll leave a link in the description about the full video. But it was about homelessness inside Florida, which is, I think, it's pretty warm. A lot of people there are rich. And if you don't, and you can move other places. I think this personally, as a society, we don't like to go ahead and try other things, because it's very hard to start new in some places that we're not familiar with, myself included. But I'm learning that I have to make these decisions on my own. And I like to document these information. So me documenting my life on social media like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook is a great way to make sure that other people are hearing and seeing my growth and my protection of my ideas within the world. So that's it for today. I just wanted to just, put that in there because it just really bothered me, and I'll continue to put more videos up like that. If you don't want to post anything online, you can always send me an email. I'll leave an email available, and I'll see you guys in the next video.